What Tabris are looking to do over the next couple of years is backward integration, taking from 1,000 and then up to 10,000 hectares of cultivation that they own themselves, which they expect to take their margins down, up from 15% to about 30% margins just by owning and controlling and securing their own supply. Then, when we have conversations about with the CEO about what does that mean in terms of the opportunity that they see in that space, they see themselves being able to match the capacity of our three largest processors, the country's three largest processors in the next 2 to 3 years. So companies like Presco that you have heard very much about will most likely be seeing in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years much more competition from players who are very much below the radar today. We also decided to look at food and beverages. Very interesting sector just because of the level of consumption that we have here in Nigeria. Just Foods is a very interesting company in this space. They're operating at the high end of the market. Ice creams, ice cream cones and syrups. And you'd wonder, okay, so why are we talking about this? We find them interesting when you look at their client base. Some of the biggest names, both in food and bev and also in terms of hospitality across the country. Now, while they were not too eager to share revenue, they were happy to give us an idea of the spread and the reach that they have within the hospitality business in Nigeria alone. I think the slide speaks for itself. They've also opened up operations in Cameroon, Ghana, Senegal, and Ivory Coast. They're looking at regional expansion. They are not slowing down their investments. They believe that the opportunity is here, is now, and that consumption is not going to stop. The few numbers that we were able to get in terms of production, 10% of their revenue comes from the local manufacture of ice cream cones. They're looking at a 200% expansion in that manufacture over the next 2 years. And they're also looking at bringing in the manufacture of certain other items, such as sauces. On the other end of the scale, still in food and beverage, we look at a company like Red Oak Foods. They do nothing more than sell plantain chips, right? Hawked on the streets, sold in Ebano. For those who go to Ebano, I think you'll also find them in any other supermarket. It's low end, very simple production method. They've been seeing, up until this year, they've been seeing year on year 20% growth in revenue. This year, they faced a problem very similar to, I think, the crisis in tomatoes, where there was a shock in the supply chain for plantain for them. So rather than scale back, the CEO is really talking about acquiring land, leasing land, and extending backwards into securing his supply chain. He does not see his revenues for this year as a problem. He actually sees that as an opportunity to rethink their approach, to ensure that they've got the full vertical secured and to go for growth from that point on. Renewable energy is a space that a lot of people have been talking about for quite a while. We talk about solar, wind, and other forms of power generation. We thought it might be interesting to also refer to other areas of renewable energy that are interesting. For instance, the substitution of fossil fuels in cooking. So the replacement of kerosene and firewood and, to some extent, gas with things like bioethanol production. And that's where green energy biofuels is a very interesting company. They take sawdust and water hyacinth and generate bioethanol, which can be used as cooking gas in specially produced stoves. To date, they have local manufacture of the bioethanol, but they've offshored their stove production. They've seen growth not only in Nigeria, but also sales in Ghana and in other areas of West Africa. so much so that they are looking over the next 2 years to relocate their manufacture back into the country to produce the stoves and reduce their margins and scale up their production. And what I'm trying to paint today is the fact that despite the macroeconomic conditions, there is a lot of growth activity going on. How do we know in Asoko? Well, our job, as I said, is to discover companies. We have, over the past 10 months, I would say, been able to profile and publish information on over 4,000 companies across sub-Saharan Africa. We have a pipeline of another 9,000 or so that will be out there within the next 3 to 4 months. We're operating not only in Lagos, but in Ghana, Kenya, Addis Ababa, opening up in Abidjan and Rwanda quite soon. We find the opportunities in the middle space, in the middle market, to be immense. We are hoping that this is an area, when it comes to looking at diversification beyond the large ticket oil and gas driven opportunities, we believe that these are opportunities that those of you in the room should be looking at and looking at quite seriously. We're going to do our best to also help. We believe that as we scale up this database, there will be opportunities for you to achieve even more with that data. We're looking at ways in which we'll be able to make it possible for you not to only discover companies, but also compare companies, both by financials and production and whatever other KPIs you have. We think it's important for us to begin to start charting the value chains that exist in every single sector, and that's something that we are looking to do to help.